We had some troubles with the perspective in Illustrator because we didn't have Illustrator anymore. Uh, Gravit Designer does not have a perspective feature per se, but you can draw isometric drawings, which give the illusion of three-dimensional depth. They just don't have vanishing points. So let's play around with making some basic shapes um, in isometric drawings. This is something that you might see in drafting. So I'm just going to make a standard letter size. And when you don't have anything selected, you can make changes to the document. And you can have your standard grid, but that's not what we want. We want the isometric grid. So what it puts it, these lines are at 30-degree angles, going positive 30 and negative 30. So you can mess with it, but let's not change it. Now let's look at making some basic shapes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And let's make a cube. So I'm going to go to my pen tool. I'll start somewhere in the corner. And let's see, I'll go over 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 squares. And then I'm going to go up 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just, oops, too far. And then I've made one face of the cube. Okay, notice that I'm using something called snapping right now. So it snaps to the grid. You can turn on or off any of these things, but I have them all on right now. So that way when I make my next grid, I don't want to click here when I make my next square, make the side, because that'll delete that. If I click here, that'll delete it, and I don't want that. So I'm going to undo that. But if I start somewhere back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I can start here, and it snaps to those grid points. And I've made the side. Now to make the top, I start somewhere away from an existing anchor point, and then I can click those and I can make a square on the top, or a diamond shape. And now it's just a matter of going my black arrow, and I can fill these. So I can give this a fill color. I'm going to take off the stroke actually. So I'll 0 stroke, and then I'll give it a fill. Maybe I'll give it this blue color. And I'm going to lighten this blue up, make it lighter because it'll be on the top. And then I can go to the side, take off the border, go to my blue fill, and I'm going to make this a little darker. And then to the other side, take off my border, and I'll just go with that straight blue. And there I have a cube. And if I want to see what it looks like, it's not actually opaque. The grid shows through no matter what, but I turn it off and you get that cube. And you can do that with any shape. So experiment with shapes. Like you can make a triangle. Okay, I wouldn't recommend using these shapes so here because we want to hit grid lines. That makes it much easier to make the drop. So I can do something like this. I can do a triangle. Maybe I'll go here, and I want to hit grid lines. And then I can go now. Maybe I go 1, 2, 3 from here. And then it would be 1, 2, 3 from here. And I just complete that. And then I can start here, 1, 2, 3 from here. And you can make it however deep or shallow you'd like. And now you've created an isometric triangle with a little depth to it. And then you can do the shading on each side, take off the borders, or the strokes as we'd call them in Illustrator, to make that work. Okay, so I'll let you go ahead and do that. Now let's take a look at a circle. Circle's a little more of a challenge. I'm going to go ahead and use the circle tool, and I'm going to start right here in the middle. I'm going to hold down my Option key to draw from the middle, my Shift key to make a circle, and there, I hit grid lines. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my Option key. It's just like Illustrator, and I'm going to drag a duplicate circle somewhere up here. And I want it to hit grid lines. It's not quite, so now I'll have to use my arrow to adjust it. So I want this to line up along this grid. Okay. Now, so I have two ellipses. Now I'm going to go to my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle connecting them. And this is why I wanted to hit the grid line, so it hit the grid lines exactly. Okay. And let's see, black arrow. What I think I'll do is I'll move this front ellipse to the front. Make sure it goes all the way up to the front. There we go. And then I'm going to select my black arrow. I'm going to select these two. And it has just basic Pathfinder. It's not as bad as Illustrator, but I'm going to do Union. And that's going to give me this shape. So now I can, let's give it a little, let's give it not just a straight fill. Again, I'm going to take off the border. I'm going to go ahead and do a gradient, a linear gradient. And let's see, I'm going to drag this slider over here, put another one in there, something like that. And then I want to rotate this gradient, so I just click on these handles and I rotate it up a little bit. I can drag this a little bit more to the top. Now I don't want that one to be quite as dark, so I'm going to make it just a little bit lighter gray. So that gives me the feeling of a circular tube. And then in the front, I can give that a fill. Again, I'll take off the border and then I'll give it, oops. Okay, let's try this again. I don't know, what should we do? How about a deep dark red? Yeah, something like that. Okay, so if we look at that, that looks okay. You can play around with this gradient a little bit more. It doesn't have the diamonds. I don't know how to feather it like we can in Illustrator, so I guess we could put in another piece and do it that way. Oops, I just made it disappear. Command Z. If you want to get not quite as much of a stripe. Now, let's say we want to make this a pipe. Okay, well, let's go and draw another circle. So I'm going to find the center. There's the center. Option Shift to draw another circle. And maybe I'll make it that large. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take here and I'm going to give it another, let's go a linear gradient. And I'm going to do put a white in the middle. I want that to be black. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll rotate a little bit so it follows the axis of the circle. Now it should be a little darker. And here's something that's nice. You can put another gradient on top. So another fill. I'm gonna add another fill. And this fill, I'm gonna make it another gradient, a linear gradient. And that could be pretty good. I'll rotate it this way. Now it's covering up the gradient below. Let's follow that isometric line a little better. But now what I can do is I can either take down the opacity, so 50%, see what that looks like. And remember our blending mode, I'm going to do a multiply, make the darkers dark. And that makes it a little bit darker on the inside. Maybe I try and put the opacity at 75%, see what that looks like. Oh, that looks a little better. So now you made a pipe. And let's take a look at, let's go back to the square for a moment. Let's play with the square. I'm going to put another square in here. And then what I want to do is I want to draw some shapes in here. But the problem is that I need to poke a hole in it. So we've done this before in Illustrator. I want to select those two. And I go to this menu and I go subtract. And now there's a hole poked in the front. And now I can go here with my pen tool, start on this corner, and I can draw. I want to follow that line. It doesn't matter where I go along here because so I can make that triangle. And then I'll take the stroke off of it and I will give it the blue and give some more black to that blue. Okay. And then I can do it again on the floor. Go there, to that one, to there, to there. And now I think I'll make the floor a little bit lighter. Not that light. Now the problem is it's not a square. It's not a square open anymore. That's because these two shapes are on top. So all I can do with this is I can bring them forward and take that compound shape, and you can either do these buttons, let's see which one, backwards, this one's forward, and you can click it until you get what you want, and it only took 2 clicks, or you can drag it over here on the layers, and now you have a hole poked in this cube. So what I'd like you to do on this assignment is just play with this isometric views and draw simple shapes, complex shapes, shade them, poke holes in them, make tubes, whatever you can think of, and just play around, and then whatever you have, turn it in.